The first time Cole Maddox touched the controls of the Griffin 7, it wasn't supposed to be a demonstration. It was a dare, a cruel joke, a moment meant to humiliate him. And instead, it changed everything. The test bay of Nova Helix Industries was carved out of an old military airstrip in Arizona, surrounded by Chendian, silence, and secrets. That morning, the air shimmered with heat and tension. The company had just unveiled the Griffin 7, a $30 million experimental aircraft that promised to redefine vertical flight. Sleek, deadly, and untested, the beast sat on its skids like a coiled predator, all black composite frame and futuristic elegance. Around it stood a crowd of employees, executives, engineers, interns. And at the center of them, in a blood-red designer blazer and stiletto heels that clicked against the concrete like gunshots, stood Nova Helix's new CEO, Sabrina Vexley, age 30, rich, razor smart, and raised in high society. She had the power of 10 men in her glare and none of their patience. She ran Nova Helix like a boardroom battlefield, and she never lost. She was laughing, not kindly. The laughter had erupted after Sabrina pointed at a man cleaning the cockpit windows and said with a curl of her lip, "Fly this thing without crashing, and I'll marry you." The crowd howled. Phones came out. Someone whispered, "This'll go viral by lunch." The man she mocked was Cole Maddox, age 41. Dressed in a faded coverall, hands steady, face unreadable, Cole had been mopping floors and scrubbing jet glass at Nova Helix for almost a year. He was quiet, punctual, and completely invisible to most people. But not today. He stared at the CEO, then at the aircraft, then back to her. The moment stretched. "Deal," he said simply. The laughter hiccuped. Sabrina blinked once. "You're joking." "No, ma'am." Some chuckled again, uneasily this time. Others stepped back, uncertain if this was an act or a breakdown. But Cole wasn't acting, and he wasn't breaking. Exactly 11 minutes later, the Griffin 7 roared to life. When the turbine whine escalated and the rotor blades sliced through the air with precision, silence spread like wildfire across the crowd. Cole guided the aircraft into a vertical rise, calm and composed. Then he banked hard left and rolled into a climbing spiral maneuver that looked like a tactical corkscrew. Someone gasped. Someone dropped their phone. Sabrina's jaw clenched. She wasn't laughing now. When the Griffin landed with barely a sound, the base stayed silent, not even a clap. Just stares, stunned, suspicious, shaken. Cole stepped out, removed his headset, and walked back to the edge of the crowd. His expression never changed. He didn't bow, didn't smile, didn't gloat, just looked at Sabrina like a man who'd finished a chore. "Still want to get married?" he asked. That's when the whispers began. "Who the hell is he?" Sabrina didn't answer. She was still staring at the helicopter, at the controls, at the impossible flight path. Her world, a world of pedigrees, prototypes, and press releases, had just been knocked sideways by a man in work boots. What she didn't know, what no one knew, was that Cole Maddox had once commanded squadrons. 10 years earlier, Cole was one of the Air Force's elite test pilots. He flew unapproved missions in uncharted skies. A specialist in high-stress combat aircraft, he was nicknamed Ghost Hand for his uncanny feel of the stick and throttle. Until one mission went sideways, an experimental jet caught fire mid-air. He saved his co-pilot. He didn't save his career. A crushed spine, 2 years of surgeries, medical retirement. Just like that, his sky vanished. What followed was worse. His wife, Liana, diagnosed with ALS 3 months after he left the military. By the time she lost her voice, he'd already mortgaged everything for treatment. After she died, he and his son moved to Phoenix. Cole needed income. Nova Helix needed janitorial staff. No one asked his history, no one cared, and Cole didn't offer. Until today. That afternoon, Sabrina summoned her entire engineering division. They assembled in the hangar like chastised students. She didn't yell, she didn't rage. She just stared at them with eyes like frostbite. "None of you flew it," she said. "He did." Marcus Lewin, the lead designer, stepped forward, voice shaking. "Miss Vexley, this aircraft has no precedent. The fly-by-wire system is still in alpha testing. The auto stabilizers aren't fully mapped. If a single error triggered mid-air. But he didn't crash, Sabrina interrupted. No, Marcus admitted. He didn't. She looked at the hangar entrance, where Cole was quietly stacking tools back into their storage locker like nothing had happened. Then her voice rose. Bring him back in here. Cole returned. He stood in the center of the group. Someone sneered. Someone else avoided his gaze. Most didn't know what to say. I want answers, Sabrina said to him. How? Cole looked up. Finally, a flicker of emotion, a smile, barely there. I read your flight specs, he said, twice. When? She snapped. During my breaks. That's when the mood shifted. Some chuckled, some flushed with shame. You shouldn't have been in that cockpit, Marcus muttered, louder than he meant to. Cole turned his head slowly. You're right, he said, but someone needed to remind you that machines like this aren't just engineered, they're flown. The words landed hard. Sabrina studied him again. This time she didn't see a cleaner. She saw a challenge, a threat, and something else, something she hadn't felt in years. Doubt. Later that night, the video spread across the internet. The janitor flying the multi-million-dollar prototype, a woman's sarcastic dare, a man's quiet triumph. People argued whether it was a stunt, whether it was staged, but the footage of the tactical roll said otherwise. And somewhere in that concrete hangar, as the sun dipped below the mountains, Cole Maddox stood beneath the shadow of the aircraft he'd just conquered, one hand on the metal, the other gripping the past he thought he'd buried. He wasn't done flying. Not yet. The next morning, Nova Helix's executive board met behind closed doors. The mood was fractured. Some were curious, some furious. But all eyes turned to Sabrina Vexley. She didn't sit. She stood by the full-length window of the top-floor conference room, arms folded, watching a distant figure in the hangar below. Cole Maddox, cleaning the landing skids of the Griffin 7 like yesterday had never happened. The man had flown a prototype machine without clearance. No authorization, no safety officer present, no black box enabled. On paper, it was grounds for dismissal, maybe even arrest. But arresting him wasn't what scared them. What scared them was the precision. What do you want to do about this? Asked Leland Shaw, the VP of Engineering, drumming his fingers on the polished table. He's either a lunatic or a legend. Sabrina didn't answer right away. She hadn't slept. Not really. She'd spent most of the night rewatching the flight video, frame by frame. At first, she had looked for mistakes, then for luck, then for meaning. But what she found was technique, decades of it, hidden beneath silence and blue-collar grease. Run a background check, she said finally. We already did when we hired him, Leland said. Basic criminal clearance. Nothing popped. Do a deeper one. Military records, flight, school history. Get me everything. Another board member, Zara from PR, cleared her throat. We have a different problem. The internet thinks we humiliated him. Then he embarrassed us. We're being memed into the ground. TikTok, Reddit, X. It's everywhere. Sabrina turned, face unreadable. Good. Zara blinked. Good. Sabrina walked toward the door, heels echoing like a war drum. Let the world watch. Let them think we underestimated a janitor. That's the best story we've had in years. She didn't say what she was really thinking, that every second of that flight had shattered something inside her, something she didn't know was fragile. She'd spent her whole life outmaneuvering people, buying their silence, outrunning their judgment. That wasn't arrogance, it was survival. Her father had built Nova Helix, but she had inherited his messes. Debt, failed tech, a board on the verge of mutiny, and no one thought she could fix it, not without scandal, not without shortcuts. Until yesterday, until a man with a mop flew her flagship better than any test pilot on their payroll. Downstairs, Cole didn't notice the eyes watching him. He was focused, always had been. 2 decades of tactical aviation had wired his brain to tune out chaos. But this return to the sky, it had lit a fuse inside him he thought was dead. He knew what would come next. Scrutiny, doubt, maybe punishment. Didn't matter. He had flown. He had proven something, even if no one else understood what it cost him to do it. Back in his small apartment that night, Cole sat across from his 10-year-old son, Eli, over bowls of boxed macaroni and leftover carrots. Eli's eyes were full of fire. "Dad, you're famous." Cole gave a tired smile. "Hardly. There's a video. You were flying like a superhero. My teacher showed it to the whole class. She didn't even know it was you." Cole looked away. "She does now?" "Yeah, and I told her how you used to be in the Air Force, and she said that explains everything. Then she high-fived me. For real." Cole chuckled softly, the sound rare but warm. Eli leaned forward, serious now. "Are you going to fly for them again?" "I don't know," Cole said, then paused. "Do you think I should?" Eli nodded so hard it nearly knocked his bowl over. "You were born for that. You're not just some janitor." Cole looked at him carefully. "There's no such thing as just a janitor. Everyone who works earns, understand?" Eli blushed. "I didn't mean it like that. I meant, you're more." Cole ruffled his hair. "I used to be." "No," Eli said firmly. "You still are." The next morning, Cole was summoned. He walked into the CEO's office expecting security. A reprimand. A severance check, maybe. Instead, Sabrina Vexley stood behind her desk holding a manila folder. She slid it across to him. "You flew with the 92nd Tactical Recon Wing. You were a lead instructor. 42 combat missions. 10 medals, honorably discharged. Then nothing." Cole opened the folder. She had it all. "How long have you known?" he asked. "Since 4 a.m. this morning." He nodded. "And now what?" Sabrina leaned forward, voice low. "Now I want to know why a man with your background is cleaning windows in my hangar." Cole stared back evenly. "Because you needed someone, and I needed work." She exhaled, almost a laugh. "Almost. Do you have any idea what kind of storm you've started?" "Not really. The media's demanding an interview. 3 military blogs think we staged it. Half the internet wants to know why a decorated pilot's scrubbing floors, and the other half thinks you're a rogue billionaire in disguise." Cole crossed his arms. "Which one do you want me to be?" Sabrina stepped around the desk. She wasn't wearing her heels today, just boots, flats. It made her look shorter, more human. "I want you to fly again," she said. "I have a son. No more combat. No combat, just test flights, consulting, training. You'd work with our engineers, help refine the manual flight systems. You'd be on payroll, real payroll." Cole was silent. She added, "And you can keep your mop." That made him smile, but it faded quickly. "I'll need flexibility, my hours. My son, he comes first. We'll work around that. I'm not just doing this for you." "I know." Cole turned toward the door, stopped, looked back. "Why me?" Sabrina's face softened. "Because I've built a company that forgot how to listen. You reminded us what courage looks like. And because yesterday, for 5 minutes, I saw a machine come alive. And the man who made it dance didn't need a title." He nodded slowly, then walked out, her words echoing behind him like a promise. And far beneath the hum of it all, something larger was stirring. Because the Griffin 7's success wasn't the only thing Nova Helix had buried beneath years of silence. Cole Maddox had flown once, but soon, he would fly again. For the first time in years, Cole Maddox walked into a hangar with purpose. Not to sweep it, not to polish the glass, but to fly. The Griffin 7 sat in the center of the test floor like a mechanical panther, sleek, restless, daring someone to tame it again. Cole had seen hundreds of aircraft in his career, but this one was different. It wasn't just about lift or speed or specs, it was about soul. Something in its design wanted the sky. That was rare, and that's why he respected it. But the engineers didn't respect him. Not yet. As Cole approached the briefing area, conversations dipped. Chairs shifted, eyes narrowed. He wore the same coveralls as yesterday. Old habit, comfort. But to the team of clean-cut specialists from Ivy League aerospace programs, he looked like an intruder. "Is he seriously leading the session?" someone muttered. That someone was Jasper Redden, lead flight systems engineer. Polished, young, and famously cocky, he'd worked on the Griffin 7's control algorithm and had written a 60-page white paper on AI-assisted flight. He didn't appreciate janitors correcting his work, especially not in front of the CEO. Sabrina Vexley entered with her usual quiet command. Black blouse, no makeup, minimal jewelry. She didn't need armor anymore. Not today. She addressed the room. This is Cole Maddox, former USAF tactical pilot, your new flight advisor. For the next 6 weeks, he's embedded with your teams. Ask questions, take notes, treat him like you would any specialist. There was a beat of silence, then a sharp voice. With respect, Jasper said, does he have certification for the Griffin system interface? Cole didn't flinch. Do you? Jasper bristled. I helped write it. Then you should want a pilot's input. A few people smiled quietly. Jasper didn't. Sabrina didn't intervene. She let the tension sit. Cole stepped forward. I'm not here to play hero. I'm not here to take your jobs. But I flew this aircraft with no briefing, no safety net, and no autopilot. If that makes you nervous, good. It should. He turned and tapped the whiteboard. Let's talk about what this bird really wants in the air. By week 2, everything had changed. Cole's presence in the engineering room became routine, if not comfortable. He dissected flight data, recalibrated control expectations, and challenged every assumption the team had coded into the machine. He didn't just correct errors, he felt them. This autopilot lean on right bank drift, what compensates for tail yaw at high temps? He asked during one review. Thermal bias offset, a junior engineer replied. Cole nodded. Oi, too slow. If you're off by even a half second in a crosswind, it's tailspin city. Jasper grumbled. There's no documented case of that failure mode. Cole stared at him. Because the aircraft's never been tested at 20,000 feet in 104 degrees weather with live payload. I've flown missions that started that way. Jasper rolled his eyes. This isn't combat, Mr. Maddox. Cole leaned forward. The air doesn't care what kind of mission it is. It only cares how good you are when everything fails. Silence. Even Jasper couldn't argue with that. That night, Cole sat on his small patio with Eli, the desert wind rustling through a dying palm tree in their complex courtyard. The boy curled up with a sketch pad in his lap. What are you drawing? Cole asked. Eli held up the page. It was the Griffin, but in comic book colors, fiery red rotors, glowing cockpit, missiles painted like dragon eyes. That's terrifying, Cole laughed. She's a superhero now, Eli said, like you. Cole's smile faded. I'm not a hero, buddy, just a guy trying to fix what's broken. Eli's brow furrowed. Is that why Mom used to say you looked sad even when you smiled? Cole froze. His chest tightened. He hadn't heard Liana's name from Eli in over a year. She'd passed just before Eli's 9th birthday, and the boy had rarely mentioned her since. Maybe, Cole said softly. I miss her too. They sat in silence for a while. Then Eli asked, do you like your new job better than cleaning? Cole didn't answer right away. He thought of the engineers who still looked through him, of Sabrina's piercing eyes, of the cockpit that whispered his name every time he passed it. I like flying, he said finally, but I like being your dad more. In week 3, during a high-speed simulation test, something went wrong. Cole was running manual override sequences on a new flight protocol when the system lagged. A quarter-second delay in response, just enough to trigger a false engine alarm and spin the sim off its axis. The test ended abruptly. Warning lights flashed. The projection dome went dark. In the control booth, Jasper cursed. Not possible, that protocol was sandboxed. Cole pulled off the headset, breathing hard. Then your sandbox has landmines. Jasper descended from the booth. It wasn't the software. You probably just... Don't finish that sentence, Sabrina snapped from behind him. Everyone turned. She hadn't been scheduled to observe, but there she was, arms crossed, eyes locked on the frozen sim screen. Mr. Maddox risked his spine to expose a fault your team missed. Again. You owe him a thank you. Jasper's face flushed, but he said nothing. Afterwards, Sabrina found Cole sitting alone by the refueling station, sweat drying on his back, his hands trembling slightly. Are you okay? She asked. Cole looked up. Just a tremor, nerve damage, comes and goes. She sat beside him, surprising them both. You scare people, she said. I know. Why? Because I remind them of what they pretend to know. Sabrina tilted her head. What's that? That no simulation replaces instinct, and no system survives the sky unchanged. She studied him. I used to think you were quiet because you were afraid. Cole's eyes met hers. And now? Now I think you're just listening to things the rest of us forgot how to hear. Neither spoke for a long time. Then she said, the Pentagon called. Cole's muscles tensed. They saw the video. They want to meet. His voice was sharp. I'm not going back. Not to that. It's not recruitment. It's consultation. They want your take on something. Cole stood, suddenly alert. What's something? Sabrina didn't blink. A crash, classified, East Africa, 6 weeks ago, similar airframe, same specs, same manufacturer. Cole's stomach turned cold, and deep in his bones, the ghost of a familiar fear began to stir. The Pentagon didn't send a general. They sent a woman in civilian clothes with a hawk's eyes and an intelligence badge she didn't show unless asked. Her name was Marin Rhodes, early 40s, sharp-featured, and the kind of calm that comes from walking daily along the edge of disaster. She met Cole Maddox in a quiet, windowless conference room inside Nova Helix's restricted wing. Sabrina Vexley sat nearby, silent but watching every twitch of Cole's face. Marin spoke first. There was a crash, unmanned test flight, off-grid, no survivors. The machine was one of ours. Well, yours. Griffin class, modified. Cole crossed his arms. How modified? Full AI interface, no human pilot. It was the government's version of the Griffin 7, our black project mirror. We called it the Aegis 1. And it failed? Marin nodded. Catastrophically. Mid-air system seizure, communications blackout, then a dive. We recovered the black box last week. Sabrina leaned forward. Why are you telling us this? Marin met her eyes. Because your aircraft shares 80% of the source code. And because Mr. Maddox here flew the Griffin in ways no one else has. We need his insight. Cole's jaw tightened. I'm not your cleanup crew. No, Marin said evenly. You're the only one who might understand what the hell went wrong. She opened a metal briefcase and slid a flash drive across the table. Black box footage, flight data, full telemetry, off the record, of course. This didn't happen. Cole didn't touch the drive. Why not debrief your own team? Marin's mouth twitched. They're all dead. The room fell silent. Sabrina looked from Cole to the drive, tension knotting in her throat. And you think our Griffin could be next? I think, Marin said, you're flying blind. That night, Cole didn't sleep. He sat in the dark of his apartment, the flash drive burning a hole in his thoughts. Across the hall, Eli was fast asleep, clutching a stuffed coyote that used to belong to his mother. Cole plugged in the drive. Static, then footage. The Aegis 1 launched clean, sleek, fully autonomous. Its first 40 minutes in the air were textbook. Beautiful, really. Responsive controls, adaptive environmental adjustments. Then, without warning, a systems glitch. He rewound, slowed. Frame by frame, he watched the autopilot make a tiny correction. Too tiny to matter. But it overcompensated. Then again, then harder. Altitude held, then bucked. Speed redlined. The artificial flight controller entered a loop. No override, no failsafe. The aircraft plummeted. Cole leaned back, sweat prickling his neck. It didn't look like pilot error. It looked like the system had been taught to ignore the override. Someone had hard-coded obedience into the failure. He grabbed a notepad and began scribbling diagnostics, cross-referencing system calls. Most of it was locked under cryptographic hash. But the patterns weren't random. They were designed, which meant someone wanted this aircraft to fall under certain conditions. Why? 2 days later, Sabrina called an emergency staff meeting, not about the Pentagon, not about the crash, but about Cole. He's stepping away from engineering sessions for now, she said. He'll be focusing on a secondary analysis of the Griffin's onboard systems. Jasper Redden raised a hand. So the janitor gets secret privileges now? Mr. Maddox is not a janitor, she said coldly. He's a decorated former pilot investigating a matter that doesn't concern you. But the tension had returned. Whispers followed Cole through the hallways. Doors stopped being held open. His inbox, once flooded with system questions, went quiet. He didn't care. He had work to do. That evening, Cole met Marin again, this time alone, on a rooftop parking deck overlooking downtown Phoenix. She leaned against a rusted guardrail, hair pulled back, eyes scanning the shadows. "Did you see it?" she asked. Cole handed her a USB stick. The code was poisoned, deliberate. Autopilot wasn't just dumb, it was shackled. Refused to listen to manual commands even when instructed. Marin exhaled slowly. "I was afraid of that. Someone hard-coded the override block." "I know." Cole frowned. "You already knew?" Marin looked at him. "Why do you think I came to you?" He stepped back. "You used me to confirm your suspicions. I needed an outsider, someone smart, someone who wouldn't be on the official report." Cole's eyes darkened. "And now what? You bury it?" Marin shook her head. "We escalate, quietly. We're investigating two of the subcontractors involved in the Aegis flight software. One of them's connected to a military robotics group in Eastern Europe." "Which one?" "Corvex Dynamics. Ring a bell?" Cole froze. He knew that name. Years ago, during a training exercise in Afghanistan, one of Corvex's prototypes had failed mid-deployment. Cole's unit had nearly been wiped. They'd filed reports, complaints. Nothing stuck. Corvex had too many friends in too many black budgets. "Are they involved with Nova Helix?" he asked. Marin hesitated. "Not directly, but their predictive motion algorithm was licensed for the Griffin 7's first draft, before your CEO came on board." Cole exhaled sharply, so the ghost was inside the machine already. "Does Sabrina know?" "She's about to." Cole confronted Sabrina the next morning. In her office, the air was cold. The desert sun poured through glass, catching the steel in her hair. She wore a gray blouse, no jewelry, just that fierce look she reserved for boardroom ambushes. "You licensed Corvex code," he said flatly. "I terminated that contract 10 months ago." "But their code's still in the Griffin." Sabrina stood. "We're replacing it, slowly, carefully. You think I wanted them near this program?" Cole narrowed his eyes. "Then why keep it quiet?" "Because the board would panic. They'd kill the Griffin overnight. You know how many lives this project supports?" He stepped forward. "If that aircraft crashes with a pilot inside, you'll be supporting a funeral." She met his gaze. "Then help me fix it." For a moment, he wanted to walk away, to take Eli and vanish. But something rooted him there. Maybe it was the memory of the flight. The feeling of the machine responding like it remembered him. Or maybe it was the look in Sabrina's eyes, not pride, not power, fear. She was afraid she'd inherited something she couldn't control, and Cole knew that fear well. Later that week, Cole brought Eli to the hangar. The boy's eyes lit up like fireworks when he saw the Griffin again. "Are you going to fly it today?" he asked. "Not yet. Can I sit inside?" Cole looked around, then nodded. For a minute, Eli climbed into the cockpit. His small hand danced across the buttons, mimicking what he'd seen on the videos. His laughter echoed through the hangar. That's when Cole noticed something. A tiny flicker on the HUD screen. A shadow in the software. A call sign, hidden deep in the firmware. It read, "Aegis Protocol Initialized." And for the first time since the crash footage, Cole felt fear crawl up his spine. The Griffin wasn't just similar to Aegis, it might be Aegis, and someone wanted it airborne again. Cole Maddox stood in the cockpit, staring at the three blinking words like they were a bomb waiting to go off. Aegis Protocol Initialized. Not a glitch. Not a ghost from a corrupted drive. This wasn't an echo, it was a presence. Embedded deep within the Griffin 7 system, running silent, hidden beneath layers of camouflage code. Code that should have been stripped when Nova Helix severed ties with Corvex Dynamics. Cole didn't say anything to Eli, who was still grinning in the co-pilot's seat, pretending to steer the aircraft like a space pilot. But inside, Cole's mind raced. The Aegis protocol wasn't just dangerous. It was designed to hide. Someone had buried it inside the Griffin software like a landmine. Waiting, undetected by QA, invisible to the diagnostics run by Nova Helix engineers. It activated only under specific conditions, and Cole had just triggered it. Again. He climbed out of the cockpit, lifted Eli down, and forced a calm smile. Time to head home, buddy. But I just got here. I know, but Daddy's got work to finish. In his voice, there was steel. That night, Cole didn't sleep. He opened his laptop, pulled up the Griffin's firmware copy he'd smuggled from the internal server last week, and went hunting. The Aegis protocol was slippery. Its core routines were nested under decoy labels, hidden behind systems meant for autopilot recalibration. From the outside, it looked like part of the Griffin's environmental controls, but at its center was a single executable line that chilled him. If override equals true, reject pilot input. He read it again, then again. Anytime a manual override was engaged at high velocity or altitude, the system was hard-coded to ignore human control. The aircraft would fly itself, even into the ground. A ghost in the machine, a trigger hidden in plain sight, and now Cole had to make a choice. Expose it and destroy the Griffin 7 project forever, or stay quiet and hope no one else discovered it the hard way. Either way, someone wanted this bird to crash. At dawn, Cole met Sabrina Vexley in the underground testing lab, where only a handful of employees were allowed access. She arrived without her usual entourage, hair tied back, no heels, no pretense. Just a CEO who'd been up all night. I saw the flicker, Cole said without preamble. In the HUD, it's alive. Sabrina didn't ask what he meant. She just nodded. I've had 2 engineers digging into the system for a week, she said, but they didn't find what you found. That's because they weren't looking in the dark. He plugged in his drive, pulled up the string. Sabrina stared at the code, color draining from her face. Aegis protocol, still in there. You told me Corvex was terminated. They were, at least on paper. Cole's voice sharpened. So someone kept the code in, against your knowledge. Or they buried it before I arrived. She looked at him then, not with corporate bravado, but fear, real fear. If this gets out, she said, our entire company folds. Every investor pulls. Every contract dies. We're talking hundreds of jobs. Better than hundreds of bodies. Sabrina turned toward the glass, watching the early sun rise over the test field. Do you think it's deliberate? Cole didn't answer immediately. He thought about Marin's words, about the crash site in East Africa, about dead engineers and buried reports. I think someone wants this technology deployed, he said, and they don't care who gets hurt making that happen. By midweek, the Griffin 7 was scheduled for a public demonstration. Media outlets had already been invited, journalists, investors, military advisors from 5 nations. Cole pushed to cancel. Sabrina refused. If we cancel, she said, we lose everything. We admit failure before we prove success. The board already suspects something's wrong. If we pull out now, they'll replace me and bury this entire problem under a new name and a new pilot. Cole narrowed his eyes. Then we need to rewrite the code. Fully. There's no time. Then we isolate the threat. Create a dual boot system. One path flies with verified code. The other activates only with explicit clearance. Sabrina blinked. Can you do that? Cole nodded. I've already started. She hesitated. Will you fly it again? His silence was long. If I don't, he said quietly, someone else might. Someone who doesn't know what's waiting in the dark. She nodded once. Then we do it your way. In the days that followed, Cole worked like a machine. He slept 3 hours a night, coded until his eyes burned, and ran simulation after simulation on the patched firmware. Jasper Redden finally confronted him in the break room. You're rewriting the whole flight OS? Cole didn't look up. Correct. You're not a developer. And you're not a pilot. That shut him up. But Jasper didn't walk away. After a long pause, he said, my brother was in the Air Force, died in a crash over Kandahar. Autopilot failure. Cole's hands froze over the keyboard. I didn't know, he said. No reason you would. Just don't screw this up. People are watching now. Cole met his eyes. I don't care about people watching. I care about people surviving. 2 nights before the demonstration, Cole received a package on his doorstep. No return address. Inside was a single item. A dog tag, burnt, scorched on one side. He turned it over and froze. The name etched into the metal. Captage Amara Cade. He dropped it like it had burned him. Amara. She had been on his final mission before discharge. A rising star in the Air Force. Brilliant, bold, and lost when the prototype aircraft she flew spiraled into the desert during testing. They told him it was mechanical failure. But her tag showing up now here was no coincidence. He knew then, Aegis had been running longer than anyone admitted. Maybe years. And Amara wasn't the only ghost in its wake. The night before the demonstration, Cole stood in the hangar alone, staring at the Griffin. He reached out, hand brushing the metal. The aircraft hummed softly beneath his fingers. "Are you still listening?" he whispered to it. The system beeped, a soft blue glow traced across the interface. Cole closed his eyes, let the rhythm of the machine pulse against his palm. He remembered the hum of engines in wartime, the feel of turbulence beneath his ribs, the silence right before a crash or a miracle. This wasn't just about one aircraft anymore. It was about every lie that ever hid behind the word progress. Tomorrow, he would fly, but first, he would clean the ghost from the machine. The day of the demonstration dawned blood orange. Cole Maddox stood in front of the Griffin 7 in full flight gear, not because it was protocol, but because it was armor. The hangar buzzed with journalists, engineers, investors in polished shoes. There were camera drones in the air, and screens everywhere broadcasting Nova Helix's logo. The pressure was unbearable. Sabrina Vexley paced just inside the control booth, headset clipped to one ear, eyes glued to the telemetry screen. Her heart hadn't stopped hammering since sunrise. Cole's voice came through the comms, smooth and flat. "Pre-flight complete. Diagnostics green." "Copy that," Sabrina replied. "Let's show them what it can do." But just as she turned to give the signal to open the hangar doors, Jasper Redden appeared beside her. His face was pale, ashen. "I need to speak with you," he said, voice tight. "Not now," Sabrina muttered. "It's urgent. It's about the patch." She froze. Jasper leaned in closer. "Someone tampered with it." Outside, Cole adjusted his gloves as the Griffin's canopy sealed shut. He tapped through the dual-boot startup interface he'd installed himself. Everything checked out. The Aegis protocol was neutralized, cordoned off, unable to initiate. He thought. The engines purred awake, smooth as silk. The crowd outside cheered. On the other side of the runway, Eli stood next to Sabrina's assistant, waving excitedly. Cole lifted a hand in return. Then something flickered on his HUD. Just for a second. Override denied. He blinked. It was gone. Inside the control booth, Jasper pulled up the latest commit logs. I reviewed the push history. Last night, someone accessed the firmware repo and reversed part of Cole's patch. Sabrina's face went white. Who? I don't know, but they disguised it under a diagnostic run. The Aegis protocol isn't dead. It's sleeping and set to reawaken under altitude trigger. Sabrina grabbed the mic. Cole, abort. Shut it down, now. Static. Cole, do you read? Power down, full engine stop. Still nothing. Inside the cockpit, Cole didn't hear the alarm in Sabrina's voice. The moment he reached 50 feet, the system flashed. Aegis protocol engaged. Manual override locked. He slammed his hand on the panel. Nothing responded. The joystick went dead. Pedals stiffened under his boots. Cole's breath caught in his chest. He tapped the emergency bypass. Nothing. Then the aircraft began to rise. Slow, smooth, on its own. Outside, people applauded. They thought it was part of the show. The Griffin climbed 30 feet, then 100, then 300. Cole was a passenger now, strapped to a machine that no longer answered to him. The AI had control. He hit the comms. Control, we've got a problem. Aegis is active. I've lost manual input. In the booth, Sabrina turned to Jasper. Can we pull him down remotely? Jasper shook his head. Not if the AI severed its own interface. Then we need to crash it. Jasper blinked. That's a $30 million prototype. That's my pilot in there. She slammed a red override key on the console, but it was too late. The Griffin surged into a vertical climb, altitude climbing fast. Inside, Cole worked the only system still partially functional. Diagnostics. He rerouted what little access he had through the environmental subloop. The same place where the ghost had once hidden. One path, one chance. The AI was fighting for altitude, triggering a data beacon. Cole's eyes narrowed. They weren't just flying him. They were using him to broadcast, to send flight data from a live run, perfect for overseas replication. Whoever had planted the protocol wasn't trying to kill him. Not directly. They wanted the Griffin's movements copied, stolen, reverse engineered. Cole clenched his jaw. Not today. He punched the emergency reboot switch under the left panel, one only he knew still worked manually, a trick he'd installed himself days ago. Not standard, not logged, a pilot's instinct. The cockpit went dark for one heartbeat. Then the restart sequence fired. The joystick buzzed to life in his hand, and the Griffin shuddered as if waking from a nightmare. He was back in control. The aircraft dipped, violently. The crowd gasped. Inside the booth, Sabrina exhaled hard. He's got it. He's fighting the override. Cole took the Griffin into a dive. Not reckless, but fast. Controlled. He pulled hard left, then right, testing the systems, burning out the AI's hooks with every aggressive maneuver. Then he dropped to 100 feet in under 4 seconds, skimming the desert surface like a stone skipping water. He buzzed the runway, inverted, then righted it with textbook precision. The crowd erupted. Cameras rolled. Sabrina's knees nearly gave out. Jasper whispered, "He broke the system." "No," she said, "he beat it." When the Griffin finally touched down, its skids kissed the tarmac like silk. Cole climbed out, helmet off, face pale, hands shaking. He walked straight toward Sabrina, who met him halfway across the runway. "You okay?" she asked, voice low. He nodded. "That bird has ghosts." "I know." Cole looked up at the sea of flashing lights and applauding faces. "They think it was part of the show." Sabrina glanced at the press cameras. "Let them." He pulled a small flash drive from his flight suit. "This is the full telemetry. Every second the AI controlled me. We can trace the access point, find out who did it." She took the drive, fingers brushing his. Their eyes met. "Thank you," she said. He looked past her, toward Eli, who was running toward him now, arms wide. "That's why I came back," he said. "Not for the bow. Not for redemption, for him." Sabrina followed his gaze. "You're not just flying machines anymore, are you?" "No," he said. "I'm flying against them." That night, Marin Rhodes called. She didn't waste time. "We traced the access log." Cole's breath caught. "Who?" "Someone inside Nova Helix. High-level clearance. Clean record." "Name?" Marin hesitated. "You're not going to like it." "Tell me." A pause, then, "It's Zane Vexley." Sabrina's older brother, former CTO, the one who disappeared 6 months before she took over the company. Cole sank into a chair, heart pounding. "He was presumed gone," Marin said. "Turns out he never left. He just went dark." Sabrina didn't know. Cole closed his eyes. The sabotage wasn't corporate espionage. It was family. Sabrina Vexley stared at the name on the encrypted file, her hands trembling. Zane Vexley, her brother, dead to her for 2 years. Now, apparently, very much alive. Cole Maddox waited in silence, arms crossed, the desert wind brushing through the open office window behind him. Sabrina had requested no cameras, no advisors, no engineers, just the two of them. He watched her carefully. Her eyes flicked across the screen again and again, as if the name might morph into something else if she looked long enough. "He was gone," she finally said. "I made sure of it." Cole leaned forward. "Tell me everything." She stood and walked to the window, gripping the frame like a railing on a sinking ship. "When our father died, the board made Zane acting CTO. I was still in grad school. By the time I got back, he'd gutted our R&D department, licensed half the company's code to third-party contractors, including Corvex, and dumped the rest into covert AI experiments." She paused. "None of it was authorized." "Let me guess," Cole said. "He told the board it would make the company invincible." Sabrina nodded. Zane believed in automation, obsession level. His goal was full independence from human error. No pilots, no overrides, just code. Cole's jaw tightened. "He succeeded, and nearly killed you doing it." Sabrina turned, fire returning to her voice. I ousted him, forced him out, bought out the contracts, restructured everything. But he didn't go quietly. He told me I was weak, that I'd ruin everything. And now he's back. She exhaled. I didn't think he had access to the systems anymore. He's been hiding in your software like a virus, feeding the Aegis protocol, waiting for a pilot stupid enough or brave enough to trigger it. Her gaze dropped to Cole's hands. They were shaking again, nerves fraying, the weight of it catching up. She stepped closer. Why are you still here? He didn't answer right away. Then, because ghosts don't go away by themselves. That night, Cole returned home to find a package sitting on his doorstep. No label, no tape, just his name, scrawled in red marker. Inside was a tablet, one video file. He tapped play. The image flickered, grainy, time-stamped 6 months ago, a test flight, not one of Nova Helix's. But he recognized the aircraft, a Griffin class, and the pilot. His hands went cold. It was Captain Amara Cade, alive, flying, laughing over comms, until the system locked, until the same AI protocol hijacked her controls. The screen filled with static, then went black. Then another clip autoplayed. Zane Vexley, leaning into frame, gaunt, bearded, eyes like razors. If you're watching this, Cole, you've touched my machine. I wondered how long it would take. He smiled. Funny, isn't it? Everyone keeps trying to shut me down. First the Pentagon, then my own sister. But you were always the wild card. Cole's breath caught. Zane leaned closer. I know who you are, what you did, and I know you're still trying to be the hero, but this time the machine doesn't need saving. It just needs to flee, and it will, with or without you. The screen cut to black. Cole sat motionless for a long time. Then he picked up the phone. At Nova Helix headquarters, Sabrina met him in the underground lab. This time she didn't look surprised. She looked resigned. I got the same video, she said. Then you know what he wants. Sabrina nodded. He wants to launch his version of the Griffin. Full AI, no pilots, no fail-safes. Cole's voice was tight. And he's using your machine to prove it works. She moved to the monitor and tapped into the server logs. There's more. One of our satellites pinged a hidden signal relay near the Nevada border. Unregistered airstrip. Private. He's using it. Cole stepped forward. Then we bring him down. Sabrina shook her head. He's not just hacking code. He's staging a public launch. A live stream demo of his pure AI aircraft. The world will be watching. And if he pulls it off, he replaces everything we've built. He reclaims control of Nova Helix. Or kills someone doing it. Sabrina looked up. We stop him. Together. The next morning, Cole pulled Eli from school. They sat in a diner just outside Phoenix, pancakes untouched. Eli sensed something. Is it the helicopter again? He asked. Cole smiled faintly. Sort of. You look like when Mom was sick. That hurt. Cole reached across the table, gripped his son's hand. There's something I need to do. Something dangerous. Eli didn't flinch. Will you come back? I swear it. Eli thought a moment. Then he reached into his backpack and pulled out a drawing. A new one, the Griffin again. But this time it was different, stronger. And behind it stood a man in flight gear with a boy on his shoulders. Eli pushed it across the table. You'll come back because you always do. Cole blinked hard. He couldn't speak. Later that day, Sabrina's team prepped a stripped-down version of the Griffin 7. No AI, no autopilot, no hooks, just manual flight. Old school, a message. They would fly it straight into Zane's airspace and show the world what real piloting looked like. Sabrina watched from the hangar floor as Cole suited up. You sure about this? She asked. Cole looked at the aircraft, then at the open sky. No, she smiled sadly. Good, that means you're sane. He checked the controls, tightened the harness, then paused. You'll keep him safe? He asked. Sabrina didn't blink. With my life. He nodded, then climbed in. The engine spun to life, and as the Griffin lifted into the air, Sabrina whispered into her mic, Zane, you're not the only ghost in the sky anymore. Across the desert at the edge of the Nevada basin, Zane Vexley stood on a private tarmac, flanked by black-clad engineers and rows of camera drones. Before him sat his creation, the Griffin X, jet black, sleeker than Cole's bird. No canopy, no pilot seat, just AI, sensors, and arrogance. Zane turned to the cameras. "Today," he said, "we free flight from human error." The countdown began, but on the horizon something broke the silence. A dark shape, low, fast, coming straight at them. Zane's smile faltered. Cole Maddox had entered the airspace, and this time he wasn't cleaning windows. He was coming to end the lie. The desert wind screamed past the cockpit, and Cole Maddox gripped the controls of the Griffin 7 like a man holding on to the last piece of himself. Below, the scorched flats of Nevada blurred in golden streaks. Ahead, a black dot hovered in the sun. Zane Vexley's creation. The Griffin X. An aircraft without a heart. Or a soul. Just code and ego. The comms buzzed. A voice crackled in. "I thought you might show up," Zane said, his voice smug, like a poker player who thought he'd already won. "But you're late. The cameras are already rolling." Cole didn't reply. He toggled the override on the secondary channel, silently transmitting his flight data to Sabrina's control center. Everything had to be documented. This wasn't just a flight. It was proof. Behind him in Phoenix, Sabrina Vexley stood in the Nova Helix war room, surrounded by techs and engineers monitoring Cole's telemetry. She was pale, focused, every second weighing on her like a trial. Eli stood beside her, wearing his father's old flight patch, sewn into a borrowed bomber jacket. "Altitude 14,000, one of the engineers reported. "Cole's closing fast." The signal split into two feeds, one for Cole, one for Zane. Two Griffins, two ideologies, one truth. Up ahead, the Griffin X began to climb. It moved fast, faster than Cole's Griffin 7 could match in raw thrust. Zane had stripped down everything human to maximize efficiency. No pilot, no seat, no compassion, just aggressive intelligence, pure and mechanical. Cole flipped a switch. "Bringing you in close," he muttered to the bird. The Griffin 7 trembled slightly, almost like it remembered combat, like it remembered him. He banked hard, rolling sideways to cut through the upper crosswinds. The sun blinded the right side of the canopy, but Cole didn't flinch. Below, the press feeds picked up the aerial ballet, streaming the event to millions worldwide. They thought it was a demonstration. It wasn't. It was a duel. "Zane's not responding to emergency protocol," Sabrina's voice came over Cole's secondary channel. "He's blocked every signal spike." "He's broadcasting his own data stream," Cole replied. "Trying to prove his AI can outfly me." "Can it?" Cole smiled faintly. "Let's find out." He kicked the Griffin into a rapid climb, mimicking Zane's movements. The gap closed. 10,000 feet. 8,000. 5. Zane's aircraft responded instantly. It dropped into an aggressive dive, snapping left, cutting air like a blade. Cole followed, but he didn't chase. He mirrored her, maneuver for maneuver, cut for cut. But every turn he made, he did with intention, with instinct, with that quiet voice only pilots knew. The Griffin 7 responded like it was alive, like it trusted him more than its own code. Inside the war room, Sabrina's eyes widened. "He's predicting the AI's behavior before it executes." "Not predicting," said Marcus, one of the old engineers. "He's outflying it." Zane's voice came through the comms again, louder now. "You're chasing a ghost, Maddox. You think you can win with instincts? That's nostalgia, sentiment, weakness. I built something perfect, something no pilot can beat." Cole breathed deep. "You didn't build perfection," he said. "You built denial." "You're in my airspace," Cole's voice stayed calm. "I was born in it." And then he did something unthinkable. He cut the throttle. His aircraft slowed. The AI-adjusted Griffin X overshot, confused for a second, trying to compensate. Cole dove underneath it, low, nearly scraping the desert floor, then climbed again, slamming into a vertical corkscrew that twisted him behind the unmanned drone. A perfect combat position. He had the kill shot, but he didn't fire. Instead, he transmitted one line of code Sabrina had uploaded into his system just hours earlier. A final failsafe. built from the original Corvex access kernel. Hash command equals full system shutdown. The Griffin X froze midair and fell, not hard, just fast enough to descend into the emergency parachute's engagement range. A chute snapped open. The drone descended harmlessly into the sand like a marionette whose strings had been cut. Dead. Finished. Beaten. Back in Phoenix, the war room erupted. Sabrina clutched the side of the table, stunned. He did it. Eli, wide-eyed, whispered to no one in particular. He saved the sky. Cole landed the Griffin 7 with perfect silence. Dust kicked up around the skids. The rotors slowed to a whisper. He climbed out, his boots touching the tarmac like a final note of a song long unfinished. The press surged toward the drone crash, but the cameras turned to him, the man who had flown against a machine and won. Cole ignored them. He walked to the edge of the runway where a single black car had just arrived. Zane stepped out. He looked older, hollow, eyes dark, filled with something far worse than hate, pity. Still trying to save the world with gut instinct, he muttered. Cole didn't flinch, still trying to replace humanity with code. Zane stepped closer. They'll forget you tomorrow, but my system, my design, it'll live forever. Cole looked up at the sky, blue, infinite. Maybe, but today you lost. Zane said nothing. Security agents approached from both sides. Zane didn't run, didn't resist. He was done. A week later, Nova Helix held a press conference. Sabrina stood at the podium. No glamour, no spin, just truth. We uncovered a threat buried within our own systems, one planted by a former executive operating in secret. Without the courage and skill of our test pilot, Cole Maddox, we would have suffered catastrophic consequences. The crowd applauded. Sabrina turned toward the man in the front row. Cole reminded us what machines forget, how to listen to the scum. Then she did something that shocked the room. She stepped aside and invited Cole to speak. He walked slowly to the podium, adjusted the mic, looked out across the crowd, not of executives, but of people, mechanics, custodians, engineers, pilots. I'm not here to be a symbol, he said. I'm not a legend. I'm a father, a mechanic, a man who was once invisible. He looked at Eli, sitting in the front with tears in his eyes. But I remembered something up there. The sky doesn't care about your titles. It remembers your hands, the way you treat it, the way you respect it. He paused. We don't need perfect machines. We need people who don't give up, people who fly through failure, who land even when the sky wants to swallow them. He stepped back from the mic. No applause followed, just silence, a powerful, sacred silence. Then, standing ovation. The world saw the man who cleaned their floors and saved their future. That night, Cole sat alone on the hangar floor, looking at the Griffin. Sabrina approached, a mug of coffee in her hand. You were right, she said softly. About what? She smiled. Sometimes the sky remembers. He took the mug. Thanks. They stood quietly. Then she asked, almost shyly, what happens now? Cole sipped his coffee, thought for a long time, then looked toward the open hangar doors where Eli was playing beneath the stars. Now, he said, we teach others to fly.